Hi, this is Mr. Evans. I just wanted to produce this video on shareholders and owners just to make it clear what the difference is, because it's an important concept in business ownership. So unincorporated businesses have owners and incorporated businesses have shareholders. Basically, they mean the same thing. The shareholders are owners, but in a sole trader and a partnership, they are called owners, and in an incorporated company, they're called shareholders. Well, why is that? Well, in an unincorporated business, a partnership or a sole trader, the owner of the business owns the business. They are in charge of the business. They own it. They own the van. They own the tools. But they also own their house and they have a bank account. But in law, there is no legal distinction between the business and its owners. Its owners own the business, and therefore they are totally responsible for all of the debt that the business has. They own the business in the same way that they own a house, and it's all part of their personal assets, and they're called business owners. Well, what happens when we have an incorporated business, a private limited company, or a PLC? Well, the business becomes a separate legal identity where the business can own its own bank account, its tools, it can employ people, and each owner of the business has bought a share of that business. They have bought a share of the ownership of the business, and so they're called a shareholder. And maybe each of these 5 owners here invested £20,000, and therefore the business has got £10,000 within it that it's spent on tools, van, some money in the bank account, etc. But these 5 owners are shareholders because they've each bought a share of the business. Well, we can think of the business as being a pizza or a cake or a pie or whatever. But if we think of the business like this, the owners of the business own a slice of the business. They own a certain percentage of the business. They own a certain number of shares in that business. So what is a shareholder? Well, a shareholder is an investor into a company who exchanges share capital. In other words, they put their money into the business and they get shares in return, and that is called share capital. It's being invested by the owners in return for a say in how the business is run and a share of the profit. So the benefits to me of putting my money into a business is 2 things. I get to own the business and have a say in how it's run, and I get to have a share of the profits every year. Well, how does that work? Well, each shareholder has a vote in how the company is run at the company's annual general meeting. More precisely, you get a 1 vote per share. So the more shares you own in the company, the more votes you have in how the company's run. And a controlling stake of the company is considered to be somebody who has 51% of the shares. Because if you think about it, if I want a controlling stake in the company, if I want to be able to outvote everyone else, as long as I've got 51% of the shares in that company, then I can outvote anybody else and I can have a controlling stake in the company. So that's one of the benefits that I get. I get a say in how the company's run. I can use my expertise to say, well, we should be doing this, and I get to vote on important issues at the company's annual general meeting, which every public limited company certainly has to, by law, hold every year, where important matters are discussed and votes are cast on that. The other thing that shareholders get is they get a share of the company's profit, and this is called a dividend payment. So every year that the company makes a profit, they can choose to either reinvest that money in the business somehow, or take the money out of the business and give it to shareholders. And each share is allocated a certain dividend. So let's just say I own 10 shares in a business, and the company gives a dividend of £100 per share. Well, I, in that case, would get £1,000 because each of my shares gets me £100 dividend. So that's how they split up the profit. A final point, shareholders might also make a capital gain. Let's say I buy all of my shares in the company for £10 each, and then the company starts to be successful. Well, people want to buy those shares for a higher price. People are prepared to, they look at the company and think, oh, I could earn lots of money through dividends here. I really want some of those shares. That drives up the demand for shares, and people are prepared to pay more than £10 a share to buy my shares off me. So I might also make a capital gain if I sell my share for more than I bought it for. But essentially, a shareholder, they're an investor into a company. They exchange money for a vote in how the company's run and a share of the profits. Okay, sole traders and partnerships have owners who invest owners' capital in the business. They're not shareholders.